Have you ever noticed how some folks manage their money in ways that just seem entirely contradictory? I mean, think about it for a second. You probably have an uncle with $50,000 sitting perfectly safe in a savings account, but he absolutely refuses to trade in his rusty 15-year-old Toyota. Or, maybe you've got a friend who will drop hundreds on concert tickets without even blinking, but then they're carefully clipping coupons at the grocery store. It's a fascinating mystery, really. And today, we're going to unpack exactly why this happens.
Why save obsessively, acting like you're literally one paycheck away from absolute disaster, but then turn around and spend thousands on a single weekend experience? Hello, everyone. I'm Taylor Reed, but please just call me Mason. Welcome to Dollar Playbook. In this explainer, we're going to decode this highly practical financial survival logic, because we're looking at a specific group of people whose money habits aren't random at all. Actually, they're a direct, pretty brilliant response to the world that shaped them.
Section 1. The generation in the middle. A broken formula.
So, we're talking about Generation X, folks born roughly between 1965 and 1980. We spend so much time obsessing over baby boomers and millennials that Gen X kind of just becomes this quiet generation stuck in the middle. But their money psychology is incredibly unique. Why? Because they witnessed a massive, traumatizing shift in the economic promises that were made to them. Picture this. You're 10 years old in 1983. You go to the bank with your dad. He deposits a paycheck from the exact same company he's been at for 15 years. He's got a pension, steady savings, absolute security. The formula was simple. Work hard, save your money, retire comfortably. But let's flash forward to 2008. You're 35 now. You followed that exact formula, did everything right, and suddenly you watch your 401k get cut in half. Your supposedly secure company starts laying off 20-year veterans. The formula you were taught, fundamentally broken.
Section 2. The defensive pessimist strategy. Preparing for the worst.
That historical betrayal, doing everything right and still losing, built an aggressive, fear-based approach to saving. When you learn firsthand that the rules of the game can just change at any moment, you stop playing to win. You start playing to survive. To understand how deep this goes, let's look at a 2023 Transamerica Center for Retirement Studies report. A massive 70% of Gen X says they are absolutely terrified about retirement. They genuinely do not believe the traditional retirement system is going to work for them when the time finally comes.
Now, here is the wild paradox in all of this. Despite being absolutely terrified that their retirement savings will fail them, they actually have the second highest 401k contribution rates of any generation. Think about that. They don't believe the system is safe, but they're funding those accounts anyway. They are obsessively preparing for the absolute worst-case scenario.
Psychologists actually have a term for this behavior. It's called defensive pessimism. It basically means you just assume everything will go wrong, so you prepare obsessively, ensuring you're fully covered when disaster inevitably strikes. Now, it sounds exhausting, right? But for Gen X, this is a completely practical response. They aren't just being negative for the sake of it. They're realists who have been burned by recessions and market crashes way too many times to ever trust the calm.
Section 3. Side hustles as insurance. The escape tunnel.
Let's see how this mindset builds into their careers. Long before millennials gave it a cute name, Gen X practically invented the side hustle. But they approached it with a completely different mindset. It's not about chasing some grand passion. It's about building a financial escape tunnel. According to Federal Reserve data, they actually have higher rates of self-employment and secondary income streams than both boomers and millennials. But here's the really crucial twist. Most of them still keep their primary, steady day jobs. They aren't trying to quit the 9-to-5 to live out a dream on a beach somewhere. No, they are keeping the main exit open while quietly digging a tunnel out the back.
As this quote perfectly summarizes it, it's not ambition, it's insurance. Your neighbor isn't running an Etsy shop or doing weekend consulting because they're filled with unbridled entrepreneurial spirit. They're doing it because in 1995, they watched loyal employees lose absolutely everything overnight with no warning and zero safety net. That image is burned into their brains. The lesson? Never, ever depend on just one single source of income.
This deep distrust of institutions also bleeds directly into their consumer habits. An Adobe study found that Gen X will happily job hop without a second thought, yet they are 34% more likely than millennials to stick with the childhood brands they trust. Why is that? Well, because institutions betrayed them, but a good pair of jeans or a familiar brand of coffee didn't. When a corporation betrays you, you just get a severance check and a cold form letter. So they reserve their loyalty for things that actually offer consistency and accountability.
Section 4. Spending on what lasts. Experiential extravagance.
This brings us to a fascinating contradiction. Extreme, almost paranoid frugality when it comes to daily living, meeting massive, big-ticket purchases. It honestly seems to make zero sense until you look at exactly what they're buying. Data from Eventbrite shows that Gen X spends about $3,000 a year on things like concerts, travel, and live events. In actual dollars, that is more than any other generation. So they're financially paranoid on one hand and experientially extravagant on the other.
The brilliant underlying logic here becomes super clear when you think about what happens in an unstable economy. Houses can go underwater. Cars lose their value the second you drive them off the lot. Physical things can be repossessed or foreclosed on. But life experiences? A trip you took with your family, or a memory of a favorite concert back in 1994? Those give you a secure, permanent return on investment. A bank simply cannot foreclose on your memories.
Section 5. Controlling the debt quicksand. Strategic borrowing.
Now, let's look at how this survivalist mindset handles debt and financial advice. Data from Cerulli Associates shows Gen X is actually the least likely generation to use traditional financial advisors. They watched what happened when their parents blindly trusted the quote-unquote experts, so they prefer to educate themselves, verify everything twice, and manage it on their own. It's not arrogance, it's self-defense. And when it comes to borrowing, they are incredibly strategic. Experian data shows they carry the highest total debt, but University of Michigan research highlights a really vital distinction in how they view that debt. See, they will gladly take on a $400,000 mortgage because it's predictable, has a fixed payment, and is under their control. But they absolutely refuse to carry even a $2,000 credit card balance. Credit card debt is chaos. It's endless quicksand. They only borrow what they can map to completion.
Section 6. The Financial Survivalist Playbook. Trust nothing. Prepare for everything.
As we pull all these pieces together into the Financial Survivalist Playbook, there's one final, seemingly old-fashioned habit that proves they leave absolutely nothing to chance. According to AARP data, 61% of Gen X maintains physical, paper files of their important documents. They practice what you could call redundancy by design. They use digital banking apps and cloud storage, of course, but they also keep paper statements locked up in a fireproof safe. Why? Because they remember when digital promises evaporated and databases crashed. They trust technology to work most of the time, but they trust paper to work all of the time.
Ultimately, when looking at this generation, we realize they aren't confused or contradictory at all. They are highly adapted financial survivalists. They're playing a rigged game with incredible calculated caution. To sum them up perfectly, they trust nothing, they prepare for everything, and they show up anyway. Because really, what else are you going to do?
Which leaves us with this final thought. Take a look at your own checking account, your own savings habits, and your own financial fears. How much of your money psychology is a reaction to the world that shaped you? It's definitely something worth thinking about. If you found this explainer helpful and want to keep building a stable, sensible financial life, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Dollar Playbook. We've got plenty more practical insights coming your way. Until next time, I'm Mason, and thanks so much for learning with us today.